Well, let's take a look at the air pollution crisis in the national capital and in North India. Now, the Supreme Court has asked the government to hold an emergency meeting to decide on how to tackle this situation and come up with a concrete plan. During a hearing on the air pollution crisis yesterday, the Supreme Court had expressed its unhappiness over the executive not being able to take concrete steps to tackle the crisis and said it's very unfortunate. We have to set the agenda for them. They also said that the cat is out of the bag, that the blame is unnecessarily put on farmers and stubble burning. Centre and 3 states of Punjab, Haryana and Uttar Pradesh, you must come up with a complete proposal. If you don't, then don't blame us for giving directions, is what Justice Surya Kant said, and the hearing will take place on the issue tomorrow. Well, let's go across to Shonakshi now for more. And Shonakshi, now in Delhi already emergency steps have come into place. Schools are online. Work from home has been mandated for government offices and asked for private as well as construction activity was shut down for 3 days. So now the government to come up with a clear action plan, including the centre and all states, because it's a coordinated effort that's required.
Well, morning Gargi, and to all our viewers, then yes, we continue to track the pollution problem and the toxic air really that Delhiites are made to suffer to breathe. But a quick check at those figures, at those numbers, the overall AQI, the air quality index at the moment, if we go by the app, it says it's at a 331. It's in the very poor category. So yes, Delhiites continue to breathe very poor categories of air quality, and that has continued for days now. Really since Diwali, the PM 2.5 levels too continue to be at very poor levels. I am at the Parliament area, which has been seeing a lot of construction work because of the development program, the development project of the Central Vista. But a quick look also at the India Gate, which of course we have been showing you every day. But today, if I can just point out, you cannot even see the monument. You cannot even see that structure. Although the peak AQI levels are slightly lesser on the application, but here we can barely stand and see the India Gate. So it is covered in a very thick blanket of smog, of that pollution. I can just show you, and also if I can point out that the construction activity at this moment in this area, the Central Vista project, that's taking place for months now. You can not see those trucks here. You cannot see any labourers, the daily wage labourers who are usually at this hour up and above their activities. They are not seen now at the moment. So you can see that here the construction activities too, for now you can see that it is on a pause. But yes, very significant on that major important meeting, that emergency meeting really, that the centre has been told to conduct. All eyes on all the coordinated efforts of the governments will be monitored, and because it has been made very clear that pollution is a coordinated effort, the fight is not just Delhi's problem but also the adjoining areas, given that the court has also, Supreme Court top lawyer also said that 10% of that stubble burning is in fact contributing to Delhi's pollution problem.
All right, Shonakshi, thanks so much for joining us there with the latest. Justice UU Lalit, who will become the next Chief Justice of India in August next year, spoke to NDTV about efforts are being made to ensure that every common man of the country feels that legal aid is accessible. Justice UU Lalit is the Executive Chairperson of the National Legal Service Authority, a body which provides free legal services to eligible candidates across India and organizes Lok Adalats for speedy resolution of cases.
The judiciary of this country has repeatedly said that justice should not be denied to anyone, irrespective of the kind of resources they have. But how are those principles being implemented on the ground? Through the help of the National Legal Services Authority, I have with me Justice UU Lalit, who is the Executive Chairperson of NALSA. We will speak to him for more on the issue. So my first question to you is that NALSA has carried out a very special campaign in the last 6 weeks. Could you tell us more about how in remote corners of the country, men, women and children, especially women and children, how are they being able to get access to legal aid through this campaign?
You spoke about women. Half the population is females here. Many of them in rural sector are subjected to various kinds of harassment or exploitation. So we have a network. Now the network is at the central level we have NALSA. At the state level we have every state legal services authority, which is chaired by one of the judges of the High Court. Then every state has district level authorities in every district. They are also controlled by the judicial officers. Then at the taluka levels in every district there is this setup of legal services authority. So this is the network which is available. This network is essentially monitored by judicial officers at every level. But who are the workers who will be reaching the grassroots level, or the affected parties, or the victims, or whoever is the intended beneficiary of legal aid? We have paralegal volunteers. Paralegal volunteers may comprise of various kinds of people, like for instance there could be Anganwadi workers, there could be Asha workers. Why do you require females? Because females will naturally have they will inspire sense of confidence in the affected or victims. So therefore we have such people who must come from that very strata of the society, so that people who are affected and who are victims will feel genuinely confident to confide in them. Correct? So therefore these are paralegal volunteers who then reach out. So this is the normal way. Now you spoke about this 7-week long outreach program. In this outreach program, principal idea was that the fact that every person is entitled to free legal aid, that as a concept must be taken to every nook and corner. Every person must be aware of his or her rights. As and when the opportunities come, or as and when the occasion develops for him to have those rights realized, then there must be an agency available. He must know that he can reach there. So therefore this was only flame of awareness to be taken to every nook and corner, so that the darkness in the minds of people at least gets eradicated.
So you took over NALSA in June this year, and the last 6 months you've visited about 13 states in a span of 6 months, and this was while the pandemic was still raging. So what were the kind of challenges you faced in reaching across, even you went to so many villages across the country? There must have been so many challenges. So what were the difficulties that you faced, and despite that you tried and ensured that people still get access to legal resources?
One correction, madam. I reached out to 13 states in 7 weeks, not 6 months. 6 months is certainly, yes, we have been doing everything.
Your personal visits as
My
well.
personal visits were in this reach out campaign or outreach campaign. What we are doing is the same thing, trying to reach out to people. So in this campaign of 7 weeks, we selected certain states. That is so far as on the personal level is concerned. We selected states in the north, in the south, east and west, and in the central India. That is so far as at my level is concerned. But regardless of that, at the state level, at district level and village levels or taluka levels, teams have been going out in this period of 42 days. And if I may just give you the statistics, we had thought of reaching out to every single village in this country at least thrice in this period of 7 weeks. There are 6,37,000 villages in the country. If you multiply by number 3, you'll reach at a figure of say over 19 lakhs. We have in this period of 7 weeks gone to 19.50 lakh villages. So that's an indication that the teams at every level, to give you an indication by way of illustration, there were more than 1 lakh teams in one state, that is state of UP itself. So therefore these are teams which go out, which reach out to villages, and that's how this outreach program was devised and implemented.
So my last question to you is, A lot of youngsters across the country are watching this right now. Many of them are either young lawyers right now or plan to go into the legal field. Now you're going to be the CJI next year. Coming from you, any message is going to be of huge importance to them. When we look at legal aid, and you've said that the role of the youth matters a lot, especially students in law colleges. So how do you plan to associate youngsters and get them into the field of legal aid so that, even when they become senior lawyers later, it's an issue that they strongly connect with?
I have been in touch with Bar Council of India officials and members. Now, with the help of their assistance, we have now devised that every law college should adopt 3 talukas around it. Students who are in the 4th year and 5th year, in batches of say 25, should be associated and do work as paralegal volunteers, whatever I spoke of paralegal volunteers earlier. So young students will be getting inducted in this program at the age when they are still studying law at the 4th and 5th year level, and they will be reaching out to people, they will be trying to associate with this program, they will be helping out the needy. So this will indoctrinate large number of students, youngsters in the program even while they are studying. We bank upon this particular number as and when they turn out to be lawyers, to be the bank that we can draw on for our future panel lawyers, for our lawyers who will be then carrying out the work of legal aid through at every level. And the beauty would be that, see, every time fresh crop of students will be there. So 4th and 5th year, if every law college say has a number of say at least 50 students, every year there will be fresh batch of 50 students from every law college. People will be connected with this program of legal aid, and that will ensure that fresh talent will always come into this. What happens is that if fresh talent comes in, new ideas will be there. Budding youngsters have lot of ideas, so their ideas will be utilizing those ideas, will be banking on those ideas.
Thank you, sir. Thank you so much for talking to us. So that is Justice UU Lalit sending out this message to all the common people of this country that legal aid is now accessible to you at the nearest post offices, at the legal aid clinics that have been set up by NALSA, and also sending out a message to the youth of this country that go out, extend a helping hand to those who need you. In New Delhi with camera person Azam Siddiqui, this is Sukirti Dwivedi for NDTV.
In other news now, the Nainital home of Congress leader Salman Khurshid was vandalized and set on fire on Monday, days after his new book on Ayodhya sparked a controversy by drawing a parallel between Hindutva and radical Islamist groups. Visuals shared by Mr. Khurshid on Facebook show tall flames, charred doors and shattered window panes at his Nainital home. 2 men are seen trying to douse the fire by throwing water. Sharing the visuals, the Congress leader said in a post, "I hope my friends open these doors to my friends who have left this calling card. Am I still wrong to say this cannot be Hinduism?"
मैंने जो पोस्ट किया है उसमें मैंने कहा था मैं तो ये दरवाज़ा खुला रख रहा था, आइए हम बैठे हैं, बात करें, एक कप चाय पीजिए, हमसे बात करिए। तो वो उस दरवाजे पे ये दस्तक करके गए हैं, आग से दस्तक करके गए हैं। हम तो सिर्फ बात करना चाहते थे। और मैं अभी भी मैं ये कह रहा हूँ, ये डर की बात नहीं है, किसी से डरने का प्रश्न नहीं है, लेकिन मेरा संदेश मेरी किताब का था कि आओ हम लोग मिल जाएं।
Prime Minister Narendra Modi will inaugurate the Adityanath government's showpiece Purvanchal Express project from the state Sultanpur district this afternoon. The Prime Minister will land on the expressway in an Indian Air Force C-130 aircraft, address a rally and then witness an air show on the expressway landing strip. The inauguration comes months before the crucial state elections in India's most populous and crucial state. News from Jammu and Kashmir now, and 3 persons, including 2 terrorists and the house owner where the terrorists were hiding, have been killed during an operation by security forces in the Hyderpora area of Srinagar. The operation was launched yesterday evening. The police say the house owner was injured in a terrorist firing and later died, but termed him as a terrorist associate. The family, however, said that the building owner, Muhammad Akbar Bhatt, was innocent civilian and killed in cold blood by security forces. While the encounter is over, search and cordon operation was ongoing. Well, let's go across to Nazir Masoodi for more. Nazir, give us more details of this encounter. 2 terrorists killed and the house owner also killed.
Yeah, exactly. And it was a nightmare for so many people who were stranded on the road and in the buildings at Hyderpora bypass in Srinagar since last night in the sub-zero temperature. Encounter started yesterday evening when security force launched a joint operation against surging militants in the area. It's the uptown of Srinagar, very, very busy place. And in the ensuing encounter, police said 2 militants have been killed. But late last night, they also tweeted that the house owner has also been killed in the terrorist firing. This is what the police have said. And they say he was a terrorist associate. So there's a confusion if he has been killed by terrorists in their firing, but how come he was a terrorist associate? And the family of the house owner, Muhammad Akbar Bhatt, saying that he's an innocent man and he has been killed in cold blood. And they are demanding the return of his body. So while the gun battle is over, the search went on for whole night in this area. And as I said, a number of people were stranded here in this area, and there were a number of trucks and the passenger vehicles who were there as well. So situation has been very, very tough in Srinagar for last some time. Yesterday they have heard there was one policeman was injured in downtown Jaipur yesterday during a fire incident when police said they conducted a raid here. There have been several targeted killings, including the migrant workers in the city for last more than 1 month. So while the police are saying that they have been chasing those militants, they have been trying to track them down, they have been launching operations almost every day. Large number of security forces have been brought into the Srinagar city, more than 5,000 in last 1 month. But we see almost every day or every week we see such incidents happening in Srinagar city, that encounters between militants and the security forces.
All right, Nazir, thanks so much for joining us with that. So 2 terrorists killed, a house owner also killed in that encounter. Now, the opposition has questioned the motive and intentions behind the government's staring hurry to promulgate an ordinance to ensure that directors of the Enforcement Directorate and the CBI could have longer tenures, given that Parliament is scheduled to meet later this month. The centre promulgated ordinances to extend the tenure of CBI and ED directors up to 5 years. Earlier, the CBI director and the ED director had a fixed tenure of 2 years. The Trinamool has moved a statutory resolution objecting to the introduction of ordinances to extend the tenure of the ED and CBI director. The Congress has said this is a way to protect and secure the BJP friends, not the country.
और सिर्फ इसलिए कि किसी का एक दिन तारीख जा रही है, किसी का एक दिन कार्यकाल खत्म हो रहा है। तो मैं अंत में ये कहूंगा कि इसमें जनहित क्या है, पब्लिक इंटरेस्ट क्या है, स्वहित है, बीजेपी हित है, सरकार हित है। 5 साल तो बहाना है, साहिब को बहुत छुपाना है। आखिर अपने दोस्तों को बचाना है और विपक्ष को भी तो दबाना है।
Well, that time for us to slip into a short break. On the other side, a huge fire broke out at a Samsung service center in Mumbai suburb. We'll get you the details. Welcome back. News from Mumbai now. And a huge fire broke out at a Samsung service center in the suburb of Kanjur Marg on Monday evening. No injuries, fortunately, have been reported so far. 8 fire engines and 4 water tankers were rushed to the spot to put out the blaze. And as you can see in those visuals, a cloud of smoke rising against the Mumbai skyline from amid the raging flames. Time for us to slip into a short break. Coming up on the other side, it's day 1 of the new format in-person CBSE board exams. Will get you some views. Welcome back. Now, today is the first day of in-person CBSE board exams in the new format, which splits the exam into 2, one multiple choice test in the first term that's being conducted now, and a second written test in the second term that will be conducted in April-March next year. Class 12 students taking entrepreneurship and beauty and wellness will begin their exams at 11:30 today. Exams for minor subjects or subjects taken by fewer students are being held first, and then later the other exams from the 30th. Now, students in Delhi will have to go to their exam centers despite the pollution emergency, as schools where exams are being held will remain open. Well, to talk more about this new format and the fact that children have to go in person to take the exams, we're joined now by Anil Kumar, Principal at DPS Faridabad, Sia Kashyap, a 10th class student at Modern School Barakhamba, and Sonika Chabra, a parent. Thank you all for joining us this morning. Anil Kumar, sir, first to you, and given this ongoing pandemic and pollution, many children and parents are still apprehensive about this in-person exam. In fact, there's even a case currently in the Supreme Court. Some wanted it to be a hybrid option.
Gargi, see, in my opinion, there are 2 fundamental things which are very important. And one of them, I'll say, is as a whole, in an academic year, starting from 1st April, ending on 31st March, you require about 220 odd working days. And as a whole, if the institutions in a year round are busy for conducting 2 exams, then obviously these 220 cannot be met. They will be reduced to somewhere around 170. So you say you reduce the syllabus and then it can work out. It doesn't seem to. Learning outcomes have to be clearly defined. All that is, like I'll say, it's a premature stage. And getting into all this kind of a frame during the pandemic is all the more troublesome. Not only for the children, but for the faculty to manage it as well. So as a whole, I'll say it is slightly tricky as a situation overall.
So you're talking about the 2-part exam. Required. You're saying just to even hold a 2-part exam currently is tricky, that there should be more groundwork laid, more systems worked out before, splitting the exam in this manner?
Correct. So it's a dual pressure on the children, because earlier they were like in a frame of having an exam once in a year. Now it is twice in a year, that too pandemic, when the schools have not been opened in its full strength. So the confidence among the children is definitely shaken.
All right. So, Sia, if I could get you in here as a student, what is your view? Because the idea was actually to reduce the pressure on students so they would have the option of 2 exams. But your view on this?
I feel like CBSE has done a great job by doing this, because earlier we would have to study the whole year and the entire syllabus, that too online. And that would have been even trickier, because both the pollution and the pandemic has had adverse impacts on our education, and that will definitely impact on the long run. But the pollution has increased so much. It was the AQI today morning was 318, which is considered very poor. So I think they should put a hold on term 1 for a little while, because the pollutants in the air can enter our system through our lungs and the blood system, which increases our risk for deadly diseases. All right,
that of course is a Delhi view, given our pollution situation. But in terms of having split this exam, do you think it's more pressure, or as you said, it's something that you welcome? And what do your classmates also view? What is their view on this?
I think everybody is happy that it is split into 2 terms. So I think it's a good thing done by CBSE to help the students.
All right. There may be administrative issues right now, and of course pressure on the teachers to carry out 2 exams like this in a year. But Sonika Chhabra, your views?
I'm very happy that the kids are going for the board exams, even though they are pollution, because I feel it's all about the future. They have to write the exam. They've forgotten everything. So they have split into 2. The kids are happier. Because I almost forgotten to learn, grasp what I told yesterday, to retain. For them, writing half exams is easier. So it's all about future, and I'm very happy CBSE has changed a bit of the pattern by giving them multiple question system. So more about 60-70% is going to be the multiple questions than on the subjective, because the written skills and the writing speed has really gone slow. So I'm very happy the system and the format has changed. So it's going to be very good for the kids. And I'm sure the CBSE has kept everything in mind, the pandemic and the stress of the children. The paper, I feel, is going to be easier, and the kids are going to get great marks.
All right. Any apprehensions, given the pandemic is still there and the fact that there's pollution? So any apprehensions on that front, or you feel the school will take care of it and it is one day?
Yeah, even I am a mother of a child who's go to school and he has board exams. I feel kids should mask up. It's the matter of the future. They have to write because they have to go to big universities, big college. 10th and 12th marks really make a difference. And these kids been given in advance the date of the boards, and the kids have been studying this year. So I don't think the kids would have any problem writing the exam this year.
All right. So Anil Kumar, clearly, the parents and children are happier with the splitting of the exams, and they feel that, it does take some of the pressure off, which is the idea. And given that it's a multiple choice paper as well.
All that is fine, but there are flip sides to this also. The reason is because if the children, those are going for the competitive exams, they are not going to be happy with this part syllabus basically. Obviously, when there is a competitive exam at the end of a year, which is once only or maybe twice, whatever the NEET may be conducting, but it conducts only for the entire syllabus. It doesn't contain for a part of it, or the IIT doesn't contain it for a part of it. So wherein the syllabus of 2 years is going to be put in, and you just move out after 3 months or 4 months from one part of the syllabus, its retention, its recalling is a real challenge. I know children will meet it out. The moment you are put to a different situation, the children are the first one to adapt to it. But as a whole, we need to look at it in a slightly more practical, more, I'll say, an approach which is conducive all over. This doesn't seem to be fetching well with, I'll say, the infrastructure as of today to conduct. I'll say for conducting an exam, it requires about 50 odd days in a working setup. So 50 days in the November, December, 50 days in April, March. It's like too much of work with regard to the same faculty being correcting it, same faculty being involved in conducting it. It's a hell lot of a work.
All right. So that is a concern, and given the increase in work as the exam is split into, so it's different for those who are in class 12. You're saying Sia is in class 10 right now, and you're saying that those who are taking competitive exams, this is something that's going to affect them in their preparations.
Gargi, recalling a particular concept is something of a greater importance. Applying that concept after recalling it is another aspect. All these two are to be critically looked at. They are really to be critically looked at, because the memory as a whole, if you do not repeatedly do a particular thing, washes away within no time. If someone asks me as a student, when I was a student of masters, so the first thing what we used to be telling our fellow mates at that time is, the first thing we forget is the master's final year exam, because you are not going to use it anywhere. So recalling of it doesn't make any, is of no consequence. While the fundamentals at the 10th and 12th level, they are going to be recalled by the children many a times. So just washing them away within a span of just 5 months, 6 months, and then not repeating it later, while it is the same coming in the competitive examinations, how far it is judicious, it's a thing which
All
needs
right,
to be.
so interesting, sir, your view and the view of the children, the child and parents. And Sonika Chhabra, your reaction to that, is that a concern? For especially for class 12 is what Mr. Anil Kumar is talking about, and those who have to prepare for competitive exams, and also the pressure on the school and the teachers, as we can imagine.
There's certainly there, the pressure is there, but then we can't now play with the future. The kids have to be now prepared. They are prepared. They say, my son says that, Mama, I have to do well in 11th and 12th. I have to study hard because I have to make my future career. So kids know the pandemic is kind of over. So we all are going back to our normal life. So for them, the key thing is only to study, study and study.
All right,
So
well, we'll leave it there. Thank you. Right. All right, well, thank you so much all for joining us this morning, and clearly different views on this new system introduced by the CBSE, in which the exams are split into two, and the first of those exams to begin today. Thank you.
Thank you. Welcome.
News now from Gujarat, and in a strange move that's likely to be challenged in courts, the Town Planning Committee of the Ahmedabad Municipal Corporation has now announced a controversial decision. Stalls selling non-vegetarian items will not be allowed on public roads, land in a 100-meter radius of schools, colleges and religious places. This decision was announced by the chairman of the Town Planning Committee, Devang Adani. The authorities meanwhile say this is not about vegetarian or non-vegetarian. It's about ensuring stalls do not obstruct the traffic flow, and this measure comes after a few other municipalities had asked stalls selling non-vegetarian food to cover up.
तो आज टाउन प्लानिंग कमेटी के अंदर एक निर्णय किया गया कि जो जनमार्ग है वहां से ये लारी हटाई जाएगी। बाद में धार्मिक प्लेस है, स्कूल है, कॉलेजेस है, हॉल है, उसके आसपास भी 100 मीटर के दायरे में भी एक स्टैंडिंग कमेटी का ठहराव था। वो ठहराव 100 मीटर के अंदर नहीं रह सकते, तो इस मुताबिक आज की टाउन प्लानिंग कमेटी ने एक निर्णय किया है कि अहमदाबाद के सभी जनमार्ग और ये प्लेसेस है वहां से ये लारी इंडा, आमलेट, नॉनवेज, मछली की लारी हटाई जाएगी। कल से अहमदाबाद टाउन प्लानिंग की टीम एक्शन में आई जाएगी और ये तात्कालिक निर्णय लिया गया है।
Well, let's now focus on cryptocurrency and the meetings that have been taking place over the cryptocurrency. Now, cryptocurrency can't be stopped but must be regulated, was the consensus in the first meeting of the first ever parliamentary panel discussing the broad contours of crypto finance. The Standing Committee on Finance, chaired by BJP's Jayant Sinha, met representatives of crypto exchanges, blockchain and crypto assets council, industry bodies and other stakeholders to discuss concerns regarding the regulation and promotion of cryptocurrency in India. There have been a lot of concerns from various quarters regarding investment potential and risks around cryptocurrency in the country. So those meetings are taking place ahead of the parliamentary session, which will also look at this issue. So several stakeholders, and the outcome was positive for the industry. The panel said that crypto cannot be stopped, must be regulated. The next meeting of the panel is going to be with government officials, and all eyes are on the possible legislation as the crypto market in the country booms. The crypto industry is batting for a need for regulation. Now, even as political heat is soaring over allegations of corruption in Karnataka's cryptocurrency scam, with the BJP and Congress trading charges, the police have publicly admitted that they were conned by the scamster hacker who is an accused in the case.
Investigators into Karnataka's cryptocurrency scam have openly admitted that they were taken for a ride by the accused 26-year-old alleged hacker Sri Krishna Ramesh alias Shriki, who was arrested in November last year in a case of buying drugs from the darknet using bitcoins. After allegations of corruption, the police said in a press release that accused Sri Krishna had shown them an electronic wallet that contained 31.8 bitcoins and had claimed it to be his own. When the police tried to transfer it to an account they had created as part of the investigation, they found it had 186.811 bitcoins and was the live wallet of a Bitcoin exchange and did not belong to the accused. Investigators say no bitcoins were transferred from Shriki's wallet, but the Congress alleges thousands of bitcoins have disappeared and is attacking Chief Minister Basavaraj Bommai. The BJP has dared the opposition to name those allegedly involved.
We want a transparent investigation from the central agencies and the sitting court, Supreme Court.
I am challenging the Congress people, come on, tell the name, come on, tell the amount, how much Bitcoin transfer to any account, any state, any country, or in the Swarga or Narka, where?
As of now, the Central Crime Branch is investigating the drug sale through the darknet, while the CBI and Enforcement Directorate are probing the crypto coin scam. Where did the bitcoins disappear has become the hot political question in Karnataka. The police has had to face public embarrassment in trying to show that there was no cover-up. Cryptocurrency scams are going to be the new age challenge that investigators must quickly equip themselves to encounter. With Nihal Kidwai in Bengaluru, Uma Sudhir, NDTV.
People should ask the state governments that they had voted for if some of them have not cut fuel rates, is what Finance Minister Nirmala Sitharaman said at a press briefing that took place on Monday night on why some states have not reduced value-added tax on petrol and diesel even after the centre recently cut excise duty on the consumer fuel. She said the central government had already appealed to states and it is for the people to ask the parties that they voted for. Petrol and diesel can't be included in goods and services tax till the GST Council sets the rate for their inclusion, is also something the Finance Minister added.
Appeal that states also come along to do something has been already made. But if some states don't want to do it, it's for their citizens who voted for that government to ask. We can only appeal, and I've appealed long back.
The Indian Army had stepped up counter-insurgency operations against militant groups in the northeast. While this is not directly linked to the death of the colonel and his family and soldiers with him, it is being called an important operation. The general area of the operation is in Arunachal Pradesh and it involves 6 Assam rifles and terrorists eliminated. 3 militants were eliminated during this operation. Meanwhile, the colonel and his family, the final rites were held for them in Chhattisgarh yesterday. There were tears and tributes and thousands had gathered.
A special Air Force aircraft brought home to Raigad in Chhattisgarh the mortal remains of martyr Colonel Viplav Tripathi. The commanding officer of 46 Assam Rifles was killed along with his wife Anuja, 6-year-old son Abir and 4 other soldiers in an ambush by terrorists near the India-Myanmar border in Manipur on Saturday. Thousands gathered to pay homage to the brave son of the soil at Ramlila Maidan. The town was closed as a mark of respect. 41-year-old Colonel Viplav Tripathi's father, Subhash Tripathi, is the owner-editor of a Hindi daily at Raigad. The parents had spent Diwali with their son and family at Manipur.
वो बहुत ही विनम्र, अगर ऐसे सहज कोई उससे मिल ले तो वो विश्वास भी नहीं करेगा कि ये आर्मी का पर्सनल है या आर्मी में कर्नल है या मेजर है. इतना विनम्र व्यक्ति.
Viplav was reportedly inspired by his freedom fighter grandfather to join the army. Viplav's younger brother Anay is also a lieutenant colonel in the army. With Somesh Patel in Raigad, Uma Sudhir, NDTV.
And it's a big IPO week. Sigachi Industries made a stellar stock market debut, opening up at 250% and closing up to 267%. That's more than twice as good as Nykaa's 96% surge.
Specialty chemicals maker Sigachi Industries today made a stellar stock market debut, opening up 250% compared to the issue price and closing up 267%. That's more than twice as good as Nykaa's 96% surge on closing after listing last week. Sigachi's stock, in fact, ended the day at an upper circuit with no sellers. Today also marked online insurance aggregator Policy Bazaar's debut on markets, ending 22.6% higher from the issue price.
In 2021 alone, India witnessed over 60 offerings on the stock exchanges. These IPOs have already raised over 1 lakh crore rupees.
Even as fashion unicorn, Nykaa's profit fell 96% after a mega stock market debut due to a 4-time surge in marketing costs ahead of the IPO.
No KYC.
The spotlight is now on what could be India's biggest IPO week in over a decade.
Paytm customer.
Paytm lists later this week and was oversubscribed 1.89 times, far less than Segachi's 102 times and Nykaa's 82 times. Sakshi Bajaj for NDTV.
Hello and welcome. You're watching Good Morning India. I'm Gargi Rawat. Our top story, the Supreme Court has asked the government to hold an emergency meeting today to decide on how to tackle the pollution crisis. During a hearing on the air pollution crisis yesterday, the Supreme Court expressed its unhappiness over the executive not being able to take concrete steps to tackle the crisis and said it is very unfortunate we have set the agenda for them. The centre and 3 states of Punjab, Haryana and Uttar Pradesh must come up with a complete proposal, and if you don't, then don't blame us for giving directions, is what Justice Surya Kant has said. The next hearing is on the 17th and the air quality in Delhi currently is in the very poor category. Well, let's go across to Shonakshi now for more. And Shonakshi, one of the interesting aspects of the hearing yesterday was also the Supreme Court saying that, too much blame is put on farm fires and that the proportion of pollution in Delhi due to farm fires is much lesser than, what is made out to be, that the Delhi government just blames farm fires and doesn't look for solutions within.
Well, absolutely. The fact that the emergency meeting has been called, the centre has been asked to conduct this meeting to ensure that not just the Delhi governments, but governments of Haryana, the states of Haryana, Punjab, and of course even Uttar Pradesh can look into this situation of an emergency air problem. What we're talking about, what we've been tracking. But interesting to also point out that the construction activities, which have also been blamed, one of the factors of the adding to the toxic air pollution, the problem of air crisis, is that the people, the construction workers, daily wage workers who in fact earn their living because of a daily wage, because of the construction activity that they do. I'm actually joined by a few of them and I want to understand from them how this has impacted them. I mean, pollution is one aspect of it, but how has this stop of construction and ban in activity has affected them? ये जो प्रदूषण का प्रॉब्लम चल रहा है, हर साल इसी समय प्रॉब्लम होता है, सांस लेने में प्रॉब्लम होते हैं लोगों को, और उसका सुप्रीम कोर्ट ने बोला है कि आज एक मीटिंग करेंगे लोग और जो सरकारें हैं उनको ध्यान में रखना चाहिए कि क्या क्या होना चाहिए इसके बारे में. लेकिन कंस्ट्रक्शन का जो एक एक्टिविटी है, कंस्ट्रक्शन को भी 2-4 दिन के लिए उसको रुकवाया गया है क्योंकि प्रदूषण का लेवल बहुत ज़्यादा गंभीर स्थिति में है. तो इसका असर आपके ऊपर कैसा हुआ है?
हम लोगों के ऊपर मैम बहुत वो पड़ रहा है क्योंकि हम लोगों का काम चलेगा नहीं मैम, और हम लोग दिहाड़ी मजदूरी करने वाले आदमी हैं, वहाँ से दूसरी जगह से आए हुए हैं, तो इसका बहुत बुरा असर पड़ रहा है मैम.
जी, तो लेकिन बहुत लोग ये भी कहते हैं कि आपका प्रॉब्लम नहीं है, सरकारें को देखना चाहिए, लेकिन आप जो है रोज़ अपना दिहाड़ी कमाने के लिए आप बाहर निकलते हैं, लेकिन क्या आपको इन 3-4 दिनों के लिए जो बंद है उसका पैसा मिलेगा आपको? नहीं मिलेगा. पैसा नहीं मिलेगा?
जी नहीं मैम, पैसा इसका नहीं मिलेगा.
आपको बताया गया है कि पैसा नहीं मिलेगा?
हाँ, वो पहले बताया गया था कि गाड़ी अगर बंद रहेगी आपकी तो उसका पैसा नहीं मिलेगा.
अच्छा,
पैसा नहीं मिलेगा, गाड़ी बंद रहेगी तो पैसा नहीं मिलेगा.
जी जी,
जब मशीन चलेगी उसके बाद ही पैसा मिलेगा.
Gargi, just some voices of the people really impacted by the decisions taken to ensure that the fight in pollution is on, but at the same time also impacting the common man who's out there to earn his daily wage, but construction activities have been held in order to fight that pollution. And yes, the Supreme Court top lawyer yesterday also said that nearly 10% of the stubble burning, the stubble fires are in fact adding to Delhi's pollution problem. But I am at this Pragati Maidan area and I want to show you it's a juncture, it's a spot which always sees construction activity, and it has all been put on hold. We in fact tried to speak to a few people to understand that if there was anybody still working, and they said no, the day when the order came in, the decision was taken to put a halt on construction activities. People have not worked and have not come and indulged in construction activities. But this is just one part of the story.
All right, Shonakshi, thanks so much for joining us with those details. So that emergency meeting is to be held today and a plan has to be given to the Supreme Court, the next hearing tomorrow. In other news, Prime Minister Narendra Modi will be inaugurating the Adityanath government's showpiece, a Purvanchal Expressway project from the state Sultanpur district later this afternoon. In fact, the Prime Minister will actually land on the expressway in an Indian Air Force C-130 aircraft. He'll address a rally and then witness an air show on the expressway landing strip. This inauguration comes months before the crucial state election in India's most populous state. So a lot being made of it and really showcasing of this expressway. But ahead of the inauguration, a political controversy has broken out, with the Samajwadi Party claiming the project was conceived during the tenure of party chief and former Chief Minister Akhilesh Yadav, and that its foundation stone was laid in December 2016. The Samajwadi Party says the BJP is merely inaugurating a project that they had conceptualized. The party is carrying out a symbolic inauguration of the expressway in all districts it's touching. Akhilesh Yadav, in fact, tweeted saying, with a ribbon from Lucknow and scissors from Delhi, there's a rush to take credit for work done by the Samajwadi Party. I hope that those in Lucknow would have measured the length of the Samajwadi Purvanchal Expressway by now. The Samajwadi Party will use flowers of all hues to inaugurate the expressway and give a befitting reply to those who have a one-dimensional mentality. The UP government sources, however, have rubbished this claim, saying the foundation stone for the project was laid in July 2018 by Prime Minister Modi in eastern UP's Azamgarh, and that construction work took place during Adityanath's tenure as Chief Minister in good time despite the roadblocks because of the COVID pandemic. Well, let's go across to Alok Pandey now for more. And Alok, it's going to be quite a spectacular show when the Prime Minister arrives there for the inauguration of the Purvanchal Expressway. But now, this political fight of sorts breaking out to take credit for the project.
Well, you're absolutely right. A fight has broken out. And both the Samajwadi Party and the BJP are essentially claiming credit for the expressway. The Samajwadi Party claims that they are the ones who actually laid the foundation stone for this expressway in 2016 when Akhilesh Yadav was the Chief Minister of Uttar Pradesh. They also say that the BJP is doing is cutting ribbons for projects that were designed and conceptualized by the Samajwadi Party. What the BJP is saying, in fact, there was a very interesting tweet put out by the UP BJP last night where they basically said that if the Samajwadi Party wants to take credit for all of this, they can even take credit for the construction of the Ram temple, because one more lie wouldn't really matter to the BJP is what they said. So yes, true blue political controversy, so to say. But I should also just give you some details about the expressway itself. It is 341 kilometers long. It connects Lucknow to Ghazipur in eastern UP and onwards to the Bihar border, which is 20 kilometers away. It cost 22,500 crore to build. The actual construction did start in 2018 and it was completed by 2021. The government says that this is a big achievement given that 2 of these years have been ones in which we've lived with a COVID pandemic, and that has affected economic activity. The government also says that this is an access-controlled highway, of course, and that they've built a 3-kilometer-long airstrip that the Prime Minister will be visiting today, which is in Sultanpur. The district's name is Sultanpur, and that's where he'll also be watching a air show put up by the Indian Air Force.
All right, Alok, thanks so much for joining us with those details. So that inauguration today and a political fight as well. Justice UU Lalit, who will become the next Chief Justice of India in August next year, spoke to NDTV about how efforts are being made to ensure that every common man of the country feels that legal aid is accessible. Justice UU Lalit is the Executive Chairperson of the National Legal Service Authority, a body which provides free legal services to eligible candidates across India and organizes Lok Adalats for speedy resolution of cases. Listen in.
The judiciary of this country has repeatedly said that justice should not be denied to anyone, irrespective of the kind of resources they have. But how are those principles being implemented on the ground? Through the help of the National Legal Services Authority, I have with me Justice UU Lalit, who is the Executive Chairperson of NALSA. We will speak to him for more on the issue. So my first question to you is that NALSA has carried out a very special campaign in the last 6 weeks. Could you tell us more about how in remote corners of the country, men, women and children, especially women and children, how are they being able to get access to legal aid through this campaign?
You spoke about women. Half the population is females here. Many of them in rural sector are subjected to various kinds of harassment or exploitation. So we have a network. Now the network is at the central level we have NALSA. At the state level we have every state legal services authority, which is chaired by one of the judges of the High Court. We have paralegal volunteers. We have paralegal volunteers may comprise of various kinds of people, like for instance there could be Anganwadi workers, there could be Asha workers.
What were the kind of challenges you faced in reaching across, even you went to so many villages across the country, there must have been so many challenges. So what were the difficulties that you faced, and despite that you tried and ensured that people still get access to legal resources?
We have in this period of 7 weeks gone to 19.50 lakh villages. So that's an indication that the teams at every level, to give you an indication by way of illustration, there were more than 1 lakh teams in one state, that is state of UP itself. So therefore these are teams which go out, which reach out to villages, and that's how this outreach program was devised and implemented.
In New Delhi with camera person Azam Siddiqui, this is Sukirti Dwivedi for NDTV.
Now, today is the first day of the in-person CBSE board exams in a new format, which splits the exam into one multiple choice test in the first term that is being conducted now, and a second written test in the second term that will be conducted in April-March 2022. The class 12 students taking entrepreneurship and beauty and wellness will begin their exams at 11:30 this morning. Exams for minor subjects or subjects taken by fewer students are being held first, and exams for the more widely chosen subjects will begin from the 30th of November for classes 10 and 1st December for classes 12. Students in Delhi will have to go to their exam centres despite the pollution emergency, as schools where exams are being held will remain open. News now from Jammu and Kashmir, and 3 persons, including 2 terrorists and the house owner where the terrorists were hiding, were killed during an operation by the security forces at the Haidarpora area of Srinagar. The operation had been launched yesterday evening. Police said the house owner was injured in terrorist firing and later died, but termed him as a terrorist associate. But the family said that the building owner, Muhammad Akbar Bhatt, was innocent civilian and killed in cold blood by security forces. While the encounter is over, the search and cordon operation was ongoing. Earlier spoke to Nazir for more.
It was a nightmare for so many people who were stranded on the road and in the buildings at Haidarpora bypass in Srinagar since last night in the sub-zero temperature. Encounter started yesterday evening when security force launched a joint operation against surging militants in the area. This is the uptown of Srinagar, very, very busy place. And in the ensuing encounter, police said 2 militants have been killed. But late last night, they also tweeted that the house owner has also been killed in the terrorist firing, is what the police have said. And they say he was a terrorist associate. So there's a confusion if he has been killed by terrorists in their firing, how come he was a terrorist associate? And the family of the house owner, Muhammad Akbar Bhatt, saying that he is an innocent man and he has been killed in cold blood. And they are demanding the return of his body. So while the gun battle is over, the search went on for whole night in this area. And as I said, a number of people were stranded here in this area, and there were a number of trucks and the passenger vehicles were there as well. So situation has been very, very tough in Srinagar for last some time. Yesterday they have heard there was one policeman was injured in downtown Jaipur yesterday during a fire incident when police say they conducted a raid here. There have been several targeted killings, including the migrant workers in the city for last more than 1 month. So while the police are saying that they have been chasing those militants, they have been trying to track them down, they have been launching operation almost every day. Large number of security forces have been brought into the Srinagar city, more than 5,000 in last 1 month. But we see almost every day or every week we see such incidents happening in Srinagar city, that encounters between militants and the security forces.
Two women journalists detained after they accused the Tripura police of intimidation were granted bail by the Chief Judicial Magistrates Court in the Gomti district of Tripura. Samriddhi Sakunya and Swarna Jha were covering the recent violence in Tripura. They were detained in Assam on Sunday after a case had been filed against them by the Tripura police for spreading communal disharmony.
The two journalists moving out of the Tripura court after bail, the end of a two-day ordeal for the two journalists. 21-year-old Samriddhi Sakunya and 24-year-old Swarna Jha granted bail by a local court in Tripura after being arrested by the Tripura police for reporting on the communal violence in the state.
The police claims that the journalists have falsely reported about the incident of burning of Holy Quran on Twitter. But the journalists and their lawyers have argued that they were just doing their job and the government is punishing them for questioning the official narrative.
Samriddhi had filmed the burnt interiors of a mosque which contradicted claims by the Union Home Ministry that no mosque was damaged in the Tripura violence.
Sultanpur was pleased to release them. They are not only opposing the bail petition. State government has come with a prayer for police remand. How vindictive the state government.
The government council pleaded in the court for police remand for the two journalists, but the court observed that this case even does not merit any sort of detention and therefore granted bail.
The arrests come at a time when the BJP-led Tripura government has come under fire for its shoot the messenger approach to the violence that flared up late last month, booking over 100 people, including lawyers and journalists under the tough anti-terror law. The Editors Guild in a statement yesterday demanded their immediate release and restoration of their freedom to travel. While the young women have got bail, the ordeal is not yet over. The court has asked them to cooperate with investigations and they still have another FIR pending against them in Tripura, where they have to appear before the police later this week. With camera person Sanjay Chakravarti and Ratnadeep Chaudhary in Tripura, Joshua Chin for NDTV.
And after the two female journalists were granted bail in the case, the Tripura government has now alleged that the two female journalists were not doing their professional job.
They are instigating the people, they are provoking the people to go against the ruling party. They are trying to unite a particular religion. तो लोगों को भड़काया गया, पीएस में इन लोगों के खिलाफ एफआईआर हुआ. अगर आप न्यूज कलेक्शन के लिए आए हो, उकसाना क्यों है लोगों को, भड़काना क्यों है लोगों को? हम लोग पहले दिन से बोल रहे हैं कि आपने देखा महाराष्ट्र के अमरावती में क्या हुआ, माइनॉरिटीज को रास्ते में निकाला गया. कौन निकाले? ये सब जर्नलिस्ट लोग निकाले.
Time for us to slip into a short break. The finance minister has asked people to ask the state governments to cut tax on fuel. We'll get to the details. Welcome back. Now, cornered over liquor debts in the state, Bihar Chief Minister Nitish Kumar has targeted both ally and adversary. The Chief Minister said the debt due to consumption of poisonous liquor called for spreading more awareness on prohibition. And speaking to the media a day before a review meeting on the state's prohibition policy against the backdrop of over 60 deaths due to the consumption of poisonous liquor, the Chief Minister said some people were not happy with the prohibition in place, asserting that the prohibition policy was implemented with the approval of all parties. He questioned, have they forgotten that this was implemented with everyone's approval? Had any party opposed it then, be it the ruling side or the opposition?
ये भूल गया है क्या कि सर्वसम्मति से लागू किया गया? इसमें किसी पार्टी का विरोध था क्या? सत्ता पक्ष हो, विपक्ष हो, सबकी सहमति से हुआ, शुरू हुआ है और लगातार ये चीज जारी है. लेकिन कुछ लोगों को तो होता है कि कौन आदमी शराब पिया और शराब में भी उसको गंदा शराब, गलत शराब मिल गया और उसके बाद उसकी मृत्यु हो गई. तो भाई आश्चर्य लगता है कि भाई ये तो बड़ी, इसको तो और प्रचारित करना चाहिए कि शराब पियोगे तो मरोगे.
आप बताइए कि मुख्यमंत्री जी ने शराबबंदी को लेकर के कितने रिव्यू मीटिंग किए हैं?
हादसा रुका है या कम हुआ है या बढ़ा? तो जितना रिव्यू मीटिंग हुआ है, ये समीक्षा बैठक नहीं, भिक्षा बैठक है। इस बैठक में होगा कि भाई आपका डिपार्टमेंट ने कितना कमाई की, आरसीपी टैक्स कितना मिला, कितना आपका डिपार्टमेंट ने लिया, तुम कम लाए हो तुम्हारा हटा देंगे, ट्रांसफर कर देंगे, किसी और को मौका दो ज्यादा भिक्षा देगा। ये खेला है।
With a few months left for the Punjab Assembly election, Shiromani Akali Dal President Sukhbir Singh Badal on Monday made an emotional appeal to the Sikh community, urging them that the SGPC and SAD shouldn't be punished for any wrongs perceived to have been committed by him. I may have some limitations, I may have done something wrong, I may have committed some sin, but there should be no punishment given to the Akali Dal and SGPC for this, said Sukhbir. The statement comes at a time when the Shiromani Akali Dal is struggling to get back its core Panthik vote bank.
ਜੇ ਕੋਵਿਡ ਦੀ ਲੜਾਈ ਵਿੱਚ ਪੰਜਾਬ ਦੀ ਸਰਕਾਰ ਨਹੀਂ ਨਿਕਲ ਰਹੀ ਸੀ ਗਰੀਬ ਨੂੰ ਲੰਗਰ ਸੇਵਾ ਕਰਨ ਵਾਸਤੇ, ਨਿਕਲੀ ਸ਼੍ਰੋਮਣੀ ਗੁਰਦੁਆਰਾ ਪ੍ਰਬੰਧਕ ਕਮੇਟੀ। ਤੋਂ ਇਸ ਕਰਕੇ ਪਛਾਣੀਏ ਆਪਣੇ ਕੌਣ ਹੈ। ਆਪਣੀ ਮੈਂ ਮੇਰੇ ਨਾਲ ਕੋਈ ਕਮੀ, ਮੇਰੀ ਕਮੀ ਹੋ ਸਕਦੀ ਹੈ, ਮੇਥੋਂ ਕੋਈ ਗੁਨਾਹ ਹੋ ਸਕਦਾ, ਪਰ ਅਕਾਲੀ ਦਲ ਨੂੰ ਸਜ਼ਾ ਨਹੀਂ ਹੋਣੀ ਚਾਹੀਦੀ, ਸ਼੍ਰੋਮਣੀ ਗੁਰਦੁਆਰਾ ਪ੍ਰਬੰਧਕ ਕਮੇਟੀ ਨੂੰ ਕੋਈ ਸਜ਼ਾ ਨਹੀਂ ਹੋਣੀ ਚਾਹੀਦੀ। ਮੈਨੂੰ ਜ਼ਿੰਮੇਵਾਰੀ ਅੱਜ ਦਿੱਤੀ ਹੈ, ਮੇਰੇ ਬਾਅਦ ਕੋਈ ਹੋਰ ਹੋਊ।
News now from Gujarat, and in a strange move that's likely to be challenged in courts, the Town Planning Committee of the Ahmedabad Municipal Corporation announced a controversial decision that stalls selling non-vegetarian items will not be allowed on public roads and land in a 100-meter radius of schools, colleges and religious places. This decision was announced by the chairman of the Town Planning Committee. The authorities meanwhile say this is not about vegetarian and non-vegetarian, and it's about ensuring stalls don't obstruct traffic flow. In fact, the Gujarat Chief Minister Bhupendra Patel said that the state government has no problem with different food habits of people, an assertion coming amidst this demand for the removal of non-vegetarian food carts. He said that action can be taken against street food carts that are selling unhygienic food or if they're obstructing traffic on city roads.
तो आज टाउन प्लानिंग कमेटी के अंदर एक निर्णय किया गया कि जो जनमार्ग है वहाँ से ये लारी हटाई जाएगी। बाद में धार्मिक प्लेस है, स्कूल है, कॉलेजेस है, हॉल है, उसके आसपास भी 100 मीटर के दायरे में भी एक स्टैंडिंग कमेटी का ठहराव था, वो ठहराव 100 मीटर के अंदर नहीं रह सकते। तो इस मुताबिक आज की टाउन प्लानिंग कमेटी ने एक निर्णय किया है कि अहमदाबाद के सभी जनमार्ग और ये प्लेसेस है वहाँ से ये लारी इंडा, आमलेट, नॉनवेज, मछली की लारी हटाई जाएगी। कल से अहमदाबाद टाउन प्लानिंग की टीम एक्शन में आई जाएगी और ये तात्कालिक निर्णय लिया गया है।
Well, to talk more about this decision, we're now joined by Ashwini Dubey, advocate of the Supreme Court, Tehseen Poonawala, political analyst, and Sanjay Hegde, senior advocate of the Supreme Court. Ashwini Dubey, first to you, how does one defend something like this? Because Ahmedabad has now become the fourth municipality to take action against non-veg food carts. You know, even if the Chief Minister says this is not about non-veg or veg food, it clearly is.
Town Planning Committee itself is a constitutional body which has ample powers to take a decision with respect to the any decisions which is in its domain. So the decision of the Town Planning Committee taking it within the legal parameters, and if anyone, like the statement of Chief Minister may be looked into different perspective. It is not that the food habits, it is where you want to restore the cultural heritage, where you want that in the temples, near the temples within 100 meters, not allowing the non-veg items, because temple is a place where people go for worship. So Town Planning Commission is
so are you saying then that non-vegetarian food is sinful? Because people do eat non-vegetarian food, but how do you justify near schools and educational institutes?
Yeah, see, there are two things. One, the hygienic. You have to maintain the hygiene within the 100 meters because the young children go to the school. And the second, the religious places. It is not only the schools, it's also the religious places. The schools and religious places, because the school is also considered in India as a temple. So, and also the hygiene has to be maintained. So I think the Town Planning Commission has taken a right decision. It is in a right perspective, and it's a constitutionally empowered body.
All right, Sanjay Hegde, your views?
It's not a question of power. It's the manner of exercise of the power. If this is an assumption that only vegetarians go to temples. It's an assumption that there are only vegetarian taxpayers in the municipal corporation. It's also a basic assumption that non-vegetarians do not have the right to exist or have food of their choice. And I think the correct framing is, look, there is food and there is vegetarian food. Don't get into a thing that it's only vegetarian that is food, and anything that is not vegetarian can be regulated or even banned. This is manifestly arbitrary, will be struck down by a court, and it is not as if carts selling vegetarian food do not cause traffic jams. You will possibly find more carts which sell pav bhaji or vada pav, which block the roads in Ahmedabad. Then you will find the carts which sell eggs. The problem that the BJP has is with people eating eggs or any other animal sources of protein, and they assume that vegetarians can dominate anything and everything, and that the others do not have any right to exist.
No, absolutely, and we've seen more and more instances of this sort of food tyranny, if you call it that. Tehseen Poonawalla, your views on this and this justification that is being given that this is not to do with the food items, it's also to do with hygienic food, it's also to do with the traffic obstructions.
Like Sanjay said, this is arbitrary. It will be struck down in court. When you know that this is going to be struck down in court, why is this being brought about? It's been brought about for two reasons. One, to divert attention from the current news. Two, more importantly, to impose the will of the minority. Because a majority of us are non-vegetarian eaters in this country. But it is to impose the will of the minority upon us forcefully, by using words such as making us feel as if we are impure because we eat non-vegetarian food. The most impure thing coming out of Gujarat is that it has the highest diabetes cases in the country. And I think that is because of lack of protein. So if we go into scientific reasons, we can understand that, but that's not the debate for today. The fact of the matter is this, that my wife, who's a practicing Hindu, goes to the temples in West Bengal, where quite often the prasad that is given to her is not vegetarian. So I don't know where they impose their cultural beliefs upon the rest of the country, believing that Hindus do not eat non-veg. Hindus absolutely eat non-veg. Majority of the people eat non-veg. SCs eat non-veg. Tribals eat non-veg. It is these people like Mr. Dubey who want to impose their cultural superiority upon us, which we will not tolerate.
All right, Ashwini Dubey, let's get your response to that. This imposition of food tyranny, this idea of non-veg being impure, and this food idea which comes from a very upper caste Hindu idea of food and non-vegetarian versus vegetarian food.
Gargi, let me correct you. It's not a Hindu idea. It is only.
It's not.
A Jain.
Sure, okay, Jains, etc. But I'm saying this idea of vegetarian versus non-vegetarian, impure versus pure, and not being allowed near religious places in schools, etc.
And Gagri, one more thing: they don't represent Hindus. These are thugs. They don't represent Hindus.
All right, let him answer. Ashwini, yes.
It is considering the identity of Gujarat and Ahmedabad's cultural tradition. First. Second, vegetarian, non-vegetarian food on city, public roads, educational, religious places also creates traffic movement. It stops the traffic movement. And there is a reason.
Do not vegetarian carts disturb? Vegetarian carts don't disturb, is it, Mr. Dubey?
I request my learned senior friend.
All right, let him answer that, and I'll give you a moment. Yes, go ahead, Ashwini.
And the second that it's also hurt the religious sentiments. There is a reason behind the notification. It's not that there is no reason given in the notification. The Town Planning Commission has assigned the reasons, well-founded reasons. Those reasons, on the basis of that, this has been implemented. The order has been passed. It is not that somebody's cultural identity is being misused, that you have a right to eat, but you have a right to eat, but not encroaching upon others' rights, not encroaching others' fundamental rights. People have a right to go to the temples. People need a spiritual go to the.
Of course, they have a fundamental. Nobody's questioning the right to go to a temple, but what about this argument that if this is challenged in a court, it would be struck down?
See, the courts have ample power under Article 226. 32 of the Constitution of India. Nobody can challenge the supremacy of the court vis-a-vis the constitutional powers. So it is not that the court, it is court, nobody can go to the court. It's a fundamental right of my learned senior Mr. Hegde and also my friend Mrs. Tehseen Poonawala. So they can go to the court and courts can look into it. But only thing that religious sentiment should not be hurt.
All right, Sanjay Hegde, your response to that, and also the fact that Gujarat culturally, that most or many are vegetarian there, and it's a cultural issue in Gujarat.
The greatest Gujarati, Mahatma Gandhi, said that even if the majority were vegetarian, to impose compulsory vegetarianism on others would be wrong. That's point one. Point two is nobody is asking to eat non-vegetarian food inside a temple. Whatever your religious sentiments are, it is in the temple. Outside is public space. It belongs to the vegetarian. It belongs to the meat-eating communities. It belongs to everyone. No one community can dominate, and that is essentially manifestly arbitrary and will be struck down. And the more that this kind of thing is forced upon others, the more there will be resistance.
Right. Tehseen?
Kagri, I just want to make another point, and I want to make this for your viewers. India is going through a very terrible phase because we are protein deficient as a country. That's leading to a lot of heart attacks, that's leading to a lot of diabetes, and we are covering this news. India needs to increase its protein intake, specifically its animal protein intake. It is unfair to the poor of our country who taken animal protein as sources, that some people in privilege impose their will based upon purity upon them and are taking lives of people. This is unacceptable. India is suffering at this moment, and this needs to stop. This madness needs to stop right now.
All right, Ashwini Dubey, last word to you. Clearly, if this is taken to the court, it will be struck down. And why impose something like this is the question, in which you're obviously, trying to give this impression of impurity and, certain communities that are more considered more non-vegetarian than others.
Only 30 seconds, Gargi. So far as the courts, as I said earlier, that the courts have ample powers either to struck down or not. It depends whether courts take it into struck down or not. But my friend Tehseen Poonawala is becoming very judicious, and his pronouncements are before somebody approaches to the court. But if we see the reason behind this, that this is important in order to maintain the cleanness, Jivdaya, and adherence to the cultures of thousands of the people who go to the temple. And also, Gargi, one simple example, the government of India has banned sale of liquor within 5 meters of the national highway. There is a reason behind this, well-founded reason. So here is also a well-founded reason. Whether court struck down this decision or not will come tomorrow. The court, we have to see what the court passes an order. Courts also struck down and quashed the law passed by the parliament in the NJSC case. We have seen. So nobody challenges the court.
Can I make a point?
We'll have to see, of course, what happens in the court. Okay, final word, Tehseen. I'm running out of time. Go ahead.
It is such a ridiculous argument that somebody having beer can bang his car can meet an accident, of course. But somebody having a chicken burger or a mutton burger will meet with an accident. I mean, when you make logic like this, you show that you're associated with the RSS, which quite frankly has no intellect.
All right, Sanjay Hegde, last word. Yes.
Gargi, I would also
conclude
in 10 seconds.
No, nobody gets to dictate what another person eats in a public space. The food of any kind is not to be compared with liquor. Liquor is res extra commercium as decided by the court.
And that was more of a safety issue. All right, I'm completely out of time. Thank you all for joining us on this program. So, a controversial decision there by the Ahmedabad municipality to ban non-veg stalls anywhere near schools, colleges and religious places, something that could be struck down if it is challenged in court.